Do we have it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna I'll start over just for a second. So sorry if you guys are hearing the repeat, but so we're gonna do just some tips and tricks, early childhood nutrition, really focusing on 2 to 5 year olds. If you need more information on under 2, just let us know. I can bring out some resources. We've got some really good things and information for parents on feeding infants and toddlers. So whenever we think about food and we think about eating with kids, the very first thing that we tend to pay the most attention to are the nutrition aspects of that. So of course it takes away hunger. Nobody likes us to be hungry, and nobody likes their kids to be hungry. So food actually helps us fill that need. Also gives the energy and nutrients through all of the fruits and vegetables, high fiber foods, and all of those that give us the things we need to ultimately stay healthy. But then those social needs. So for kids especially, we need to not ignore the importance of what they're getting from a social standpoint with food and nutrition. So comfort and security, a connection to others. That's why kids who eat dinner with a family, like they have a sit-down meal, doesn't have to be the evening meal, but some meal through the week, at least 3 to 4 times, they eat better. They have a better nutritional quality, and they actually have better social skills. They have more coping mechanisms just simply by eating dinner or eating a meal with their family. They get a lot of information from their world. There's a lot of communication and a lot of exploring that goes on with food and eating, especially in early childhood. They get a lot of motor skills, language skills, social skills, all happen through food and through those experiences. Now, sometimes, like I said, for us, food and eating is a task. It's a task. It does something, we get through it, and we move on. And so it can be really frustrating when kids seem to be dawdling, or they appear to be playing with their food. They're doing more time squishing it in their hands, or slurping it, or doing all of those things. And so we're thinking, oh, they're driving me crazy. We need to eat. But really, that is part of that whole food process for early childhood. And so being able to eat slowly, giving some time to explore within reason. Obviously, we don't want them throwing food. We don't want them to do things like that. But having that natural exploration is a good thing. So a couple of parent tidbits. Number one, provide a variety of food. Kids have to be exposed. In fact, adults have to be exposed to any new foods. Oh, somebody, Diamond is entering the room, so I'm going to let her in. So
one of our other center supervisors.
Good deal. Providing a variety of foods, kids and adults alike have to be exposed to a new food 12 to 15 times before it actually becomes something that they readily don't have to pause before eating. And so that doesn't mean they have to put it in their mouth that many times, but they have to see it at the store. They have to touch it. They have to smell it. They have to see it cooking. All of those things. For adults, a lot of times we hear that with broccoli and asparagus and Brussels sprouts. They'd never eaten them before. But over time and fixed certain ways, people will tend to eat those. So offering that variety of foods over and over, don't think that they're just automatically refusing to never want it again. So the other thing is just to provide safe foods. And I've got a quick list on some of those foods that you might want to pay special attention to, and then maybe how to adapt those. Pay attention to eating behaviors. Sometimes they may like a food and you can't put enough in front of them on a certain day, and you fix it the next time and you're thinking, oh, this is great, they're going to eat so much of it, and then they decide they don't want any of it. Yeah, you're taking it. Yeah. So keep in mind that they will have food preferences on certain days the same way you do. And so being able to just pay attention to some of those, don't get discouraged. And then also, we'll talk about this a little bit more. Kids are going to eat more on certain days than they do others. And so one day they may not eat hardly at all, which is really unnerving, because you're like, why are you not eating? You need to eat, you need to eat. But really, kids, if we let them be, are very good appetite regulators. They will eat when they are hungry, and they will eat to full. And when they're not hungry, they don't eat as much, but they still eat to full. So even if they're not eating a large amount, they're probably still full. So like I said, they're much better regulators for that than we are as adults, because we tend to just eat so fast. And most of the time we eat past full, or we'll eat and we're not hungry. It's food. There's food. I'm going to eat it. Right. And kids don't do that as much. So offer food about every 2 to 3 hours. So that includes meals and snacks. Remember, they're small bellies and they're just going to eat to full. They're going to burn a lot of those calories off quickly and need to replenish them throughout the day. So that can be kind of a challenge sometimes. But about every 2 to 3 hours, there should be some sort of a food offering. Give kids time to really eat. It takes them longer. Remember, we're building skills as well. And so give them time to learn those skills. As much as possible, make a routine for eating, which basically means you want to try to eat breakfast within about the same 30-minute time frame. You want to offer a snack about that same 20 to 30-minute time frame. Eat lunch, etc. Not necessarily that it has to be scheduled, but fairly consistent. That's good for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps you prepare, but another reason is it also helps make sure that you are providing that food in ways that the kids are able to be hungry enough to eat it, number one, and then also kind of be expecting that. So make sure that dinner time or eating time is friendly, it's comfortable, it's helpful. They're not having to try to, the tools and the chairs that they're sitting in are comfortable for them, because, if you've ever sat at a table, I'm very short. If you've ever sat at a booth where your feet are dangling, or your table's too high, it makes it difficult to eat and eat well. Most importantly, be a role model about what and how you eat. I always tell parents, so money and food are the two things that kids will mimic, and it doesn't matter what you say, they're gonna follow what you do. So make sure that you're role modeling some of those healthy habits and those healthy responsibilities that you want them to have. Unfortunately, Oklahoma in general is not known for their large consumption of fruits and vegetables. We're just not as good at eating those. And a lot of times the vegetable of choice in Oklahoma is a potato. So we tend to model that unconsciously for our kids. And then that's kind of the vegetable that they tend to go to and gravitate to as well. So a couple of things to meet needs. Remember, like we said, growing healthy kids won't eat the same amount every day. That's okay. They don't need to, they don't have to. But we want to try for non-sticky, low sugar snacks. And then we want to provide limited amounts of 100% fruit juice. If you're doing a juice drink, you want it to be 100% fruit juice. And those are really preferred as a snack, not with meal. So what we tend to see is if we give a early childhood student or kid fruit juice, even 100% fruit juice, they're going to drink all that juice first. And what's going to happen to their bellies? Do what? They're gonna, yeah, I think I heard you say they're gonna get full. And so what happens is they get full of juice and then they don't have room for the actual food. 100% fruit juice, it has tons of vitamins and minerals, which we love and we want, but it also is naturally high in sugar. And so we want to kind of limit those, maybe use those 4 ounces, 4 to 6 ounces tops on 100% fruit juice. Really, water is best. Every single function that our body performs needs water. Our brain, our heart, our kidneys, our lungs, our muscles all use water throughout the day. And water is one of those things within our body, because we go to the bathroom, needs to be replenished. And so really water is the best. A couple of things that we see kids tend to not get enough of. Number one is vitamin C. You really want to have at least 1 serving a day of a high vitamin C. Usually that's going to be a fruit, but not necessarily. There's some others. And then 1 serving of high vitamin A at least 3 times a week. Now, who knows what foods are high in vitamin A? Anybody? So there's a big list. My simple way of remembering vitamin A foods is they're the ones that are orange. So sweet potatoes. Well, I say that spinach is really high in vitamin A too, and it's not orange, but sweet potatoes, pumpkins, carrots, mangoes, even some salmon. Those are all higher in vitamin A. And then, like I said, the spinach is also one. And then 1 serving each day, high iron foods. So kids tend to need more iron in their day than adults. So again, spinach and leafy greens is a great way to get the iron in there. You want more? But it's, those can be a little bit harder, but iron fortified cereals and breads, grains, and then meats and proteins. So using my plate as the guideline is always a good idea. So eat a variety of foods. I tell people use color as a guide. If you look at your plate and there's different colors on it, then you've probably got a good variety there, and you've got a good variety that includes fruits and vegetables. I used to tell everybody to eat a rainbow, and I love that slogan. You can see it all over the place. I've kind of stopped saying eat a rainbow after a very ingenious 4-year-old boy said, I eat Skittles all the time. Like, oh, that's wrong rainbow. So it's one of those things I usually now say, you get colors, just eat a lot of colors instead. But yeah, he was so proud of himself. He was like, I eat a lot of Skittles. I'm like, oh shoot, that was not what I meant. So another thing is to try to maintain a healthy weight. Remember, kids' weights fluctuate a lot. In a 3-month time span, kids can gain a lot of weight. Kids can then plateau and not gain any weight for months. So really you want to look at those ranges for their particular age, their height, and things like that. Because if we get really hung up on a pound, that can drive you crazy. And it's really not as important as having that healthy mix. So choose a diet that's low in fat, saturated fats, and cholesterol. So be sure to have the low fat dairy and proteins. Proteins are really important. And a lot of times we kind of we navigate to meat proteins, but keep in mind all the beans are considered proteins. So you can actually get a lot of protein and a lot of iron with some of the, just dried pinto beans or canned beans to do that. So choose a diet with plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grains. So this is one of those areas that from a nutrition standpoint, obviously we know fruits and vegetables, we need those vitamins and minerals, but our whole grains, like our whole wheat, multigrain breads, the leafy greens, all of those are so important for one very, very, very important thing that everybody needs, and that is fiber. 99%, that's Sonia's made up statistic, but there's a very high percent of people who are very deficient in fiber intake. Fiber intake is what helps things that don't belong in your body move out of your body. So if you've got kids that tend to be more constipated, they have trouble going, really look at their fiber intake. Fiber makes more of a difference even than water, but fiber and water combined will solve a lot of tummy issues for little ones. On top of that, if your stomach isn't healthy, that is where we see anxiety, we see irritability, we see a lot of outward behaviors with kids based on what's going on in their gut. So fiber is one of those things that you probably will hear a lot more about from pediatricians and from nutritionists, because it is becoming, and it has been an issue for young kids for quite a while. But when you start to relate it to those behaviors that we want to limit, that's important. So moderate, of course, sugar, salt, and sodium. So on here, my next slide is creating your own meal plan. And I'll send this link also with the sign-in link. But you're planning your nutritional intake for a day, not just a meal. And sometimes I think we forget that. We focus just on a meal, and then everything else is just supposed to magically happen in the way that's going to give us what we want. Really, you're wanting to plan throughout the whole day. That way you can make sure that you're hitting all of those marks throughout, with breakfast, with snacks, with all of those. So I'm going to jump here real fast. This is a website that you can go to that helps plan your plate. It's really easy to use. You can hit start. You can actually get a widget that you can share out, but it will tell you all of the nutritional needs for your specific child based on their stats or their statistics. But it's really good. It's also works for adults and gives you a really good plan. It'll tell you, you need throughout the day, your child needs a full cup of, or it needs 4 ounces of, and it kind of helps you regulate that. Oh, great. Now where'd my screen go? Are you seeing my screen? Are you seeing this?
We still see this the slide about create your own meal plan.
Oh, you do see it? Okay, good. Then I'm just going to jump over here because my screen went away. But I'll send the link for that. The other thing that you might want to look at, foods to avoid or adapt. You may know most of these, but just a spoonful of peanut butter, mini marshmallows, big chunks of meat, seeds, nuts and seeds, the baby raw carrots, fish with bones in it, hard candies, popcorn, raw peas, whole grapes, but you can kind of see all of those. But a lot of these, whoops, where'd it go? A lot of these can be adapted. So, you know, of course, the hot dogs you can cut lengthwise, cut them into quarters, whole grapes cut in half, nuts. You can do that if you finely chop them. I would only introduce one variety of nut at a time, because those are high allergy foods. So you might watch that. Raw carrots, really doing those in sticks is the best way to do that. And then peanut butter, you know, either spread it thin or you can mix it with applesauce, because that kind of changes that consistency to where it's a little bit easier to digest and get down. So another trick with kids to get them to explore and try and be more apt to eat different things is including them in the kitchen. And so here is just a really quick snapshot of things that you could get your kids involved in the kitchen. So like 2-year-olds, scrubbing, tearing, dipping. 3, I was like wrapping. What are they wrapping? That would be like a baked potato in foil, or maybe like oh goodness gracious, those hobo dinner packets where you make the packets. Those are things that they can help you put together. Pouring, mixing, shaking, spreading. Of course, the older they get, the more they can do. So peeling with a vegetable peeler, rolling things out, cracking eggs, mashing. And then, of course, your 5-year-olds, I don't know, the grater scares me. So I'm not sure I would have I'm not sure, but that's my comfort level. Because I hate using the grater because I think I'm going to grate my fingers. So, but measuring, cutting, there's some really good safe cutters that are available for kids, and then grinding things. So all of those are things that kids can get into the kitchen and start doing. So we can't talk about nutrition without at least approaching the subject of picky eaters. I like to call them choosy. Picky sometimes can have a negative meaning. Kids get labeled picky eaters. My kid is one of them. She's definitely labeled picky eater, and she lives up to that title. She wears it like a badge of honor. So I think if we can move that off of picky to choosy, it's not quite so labeling. So offer familiar foods, things that you know that they like and they will eat, with new foods. That way you have the comfort of knowing that they're going to eat something, but you're still introducing that second thing. Who knows? They may put it in their mouth and be like, oh my gosh, it's the best. And they may eat that food instead of the food they always like. But at least that way you feel comfortable offering something they will eat, but then not becoming that short order cook if they refuse. So keep offerings in small amounts. So one piece of something, something new. So one piece of carrot. Offer in different forms. If you wanted me to sit down and eat cooked spinach, it would not happen. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to like it. I've tried it a million times. I'm not going to eat it. But I will eat spinach leaves in a salad, or I'll eat it wilted, not cooked, but wilted. So offer it in different forms. Some people hate cooked carrots, but they'll eat the fresh baby carrots. And kids are going to be the same way. So trying those things in different forms is really, really important, because kids are texture oriented with their food. That's why a lot of kids in early childhood don't eat a lot of meat, because the texture of meat in someone's mouth, especially with not a lot of teeth, can be really hard and really difficult to eat. So keep in mind those textural issues. Kids usually want food warm or cold, but not hot. So keep that in mind when you're serving them, let it cool down. Offer food or serve food in sections, basically not touching. That way they are able to compartmentalize those foods. How many of you all have that family member that still as an adult will not have their food touched? Yeah, we all have that one person that's, yeah, they are like, no. But kids are that way. They kind of like to see the individuals. Use less seasoning. Their palates are much more sensitive than ours. They have damaged their taste buds over time. And so they're going to have a lot more intensity on especially sugar and salt. So you might use a little bit less of that. Given very small amounts. Kids, the serving size for a kid can be a tablespoon. If you put a lot of food on one plate, it begins to seem very overwhelming. And so serving small portions and then adding to that will help. Don't force or fight. And then kids, like I said, do a lot better and eat a lot better when other people are around. So family meal times really, really can impact those choosy eaters. If they see somebody else eating it, they're more likely to eat it. That's especially true with men. So kids, if they see a guy or a man at the table, or even a bigger brother or an uncle or a grandpa, whoever, if they see them eating those vegetables, they are more likely to eat it. I don't know why, but they've shown that. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we are in charge of what food is offered and what food is available. So if your kid will only eat Cheetos, I have never seen a 4-year-old buying Cheetos at the grocery store. Okay, that's kind of our role, is what's available. And then you're in charge of how the food is prepared, when food is offered or served, and then the environment. As much as we hate it, children are in control of what they are eating, like what they actually eat and how much of it they eat. Trying to force that, kids will get sick. They will throw it up. And so it's one of those things that trying to have that balance. The things that we can control is when they have the refusal or when they don't want to. That's a time when we can really talk about manners, how to politely refuse something. Those are the things that we definitely want to teach at that moment. But trying to force a specific food or more food actually is pretty difficult, and usually doesn't result in a happy kid or a happy parent or a happy mealtime for anybody. So we want to try to avoid that. All right, I'm going to shut this down. So, like I said, just kind of went through some high points. I do have a tool that I can pass along. In fact, I will email it along with. Can you guys see the handout that just popped up? The Start Simple with My Plate. So
Yes.
this is kind of that easy chart type system. These are the things that they need throughout an entire day. Okay, and this is for ages 2 to 3. On that other website, it has the calorie intake for 4 and 5-year-olds, but a lot of 4 and 5-year-olds are still within that 1,400 to 1,600 calorie range. And then here is kind of where you can fill in. So I will send that along with the links. But so what are some things that you guys are seeing or have experienced?
So my son is he's almost 2.5, so he's kind of like right in that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna eat it today, but maybe not tomorrow. And
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like, yep,
Yeah.
yep, that's mine.
Yeah.
Um, but he, for the most part, is a really good eater. His biggest thing, I mean, right now, meat and fruit, great. We'll eat that. I mean, by the bucket load.
Yeah.
But vegetables and
Yeah.
and he ate them like when we did like we introducing the baby foods
Yeah.
because we did the vegetables first and then the meat and the fruit came after that. But now he won't eat it. Like he'll eat
Yeah.
two vegetables. He'll eat peas and corn. That's it. Nothing else.
I was just getting ready to say sometimes they will go ahead and eat the sweeter vegetables, which corn, peas are also sweet. Leafy greens for little ones are kind of hard to chew. And so a lot of times that's a textural issue. But if you can break it up small enough, sometimes that'll help. But yeah, vegetables are inherently a little bit more difficult. I would say just keep introducing them in different ways. So, but yeah,
Oh, you can play anything.
a friend of mine, she said she couldn't keep enough cuties. Like every time she turned around, they were out of cuties. And so she bought like 2, 3 bags of them and everybody quit eating cuties. And she was like, what happened? So they'll go on food jags too. So that's always a joy. Uh, all right. So anybody else? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.